like I said, Indiana wasn't the only historically strong program that had a rough weekend. So did North Carolina. Coach Game's final game in Chapel Hill, it doubled as North Carolina's latest ass whipping. Final score, Duke 87, North Carolina 67. You know, we talked a little bit about North Carolina last week, but I still think that the Tar Heels are worth a few minutes. They're now 0-7 in quadrant one games with 5 blowout losses and an average margin of defeat in those games. So 7 quadrant one games of 18.6 points. They've lost by 17 to Tennessee, 20 to Duke, 22 to Wake Forest, 28 to Miami, 29 to Kentucky. And it's not, again, that they're just losing these games. They are getting humiliated in these games. Down 28 at home to Duke. Like, that ain't it. Right now, here's the question for you. Yes or no? North Carolina going to make the NCAA tournament?
All right, that's the blind question. Not trying to get yeah, I'm saying yes, it's making it, but I wouldn't have it in the field today because I got this little piece of analysis. New to the board, by the way. Here's a strange but true fact about North Carolina right now.
They're not good.
What?
They're not good.
That's right. One more time, please.
They're not good.
There we go. Not good at the moment. Been holding that one.
They're not good.
I'm using that one plenty, my man. I got another one here, but I don't know if we can use it today, but I'm gonna
I was wrong.
Okay, well, there we go.
I was wrong. They're not good.
All right, so anyway, UNC is a troublesome case right now. Parrish has a column on Carolina. Let's get that in the pod description as well. And I wonder this very thing. So same wavelength, buddy. You asked Palm about this. Now, the net's only in its 4th season, and it's hard to compare previous to that. But the point is this. There's never been an at-large team with 0 quad wins that's gotten into the NCAA tournament. I think that's one of those things that will always be a truth. You have to at least beat one. But really, if you're going to be an at-large worthy kind of team, particularly from a power conference, I'm thinking 2 or 3 quad 1 level wins is going to have to be the baseline here. So Palm said it's never happened. He said they don't even have 1 or 2 good quad 2 wins.
Yep.
All of their losses have come in quad 1, but we have hit the point where it's not just the losses are in quad 1. They are getting rolled. And for Carolina to fail to show up the way that it did against Duke, first home loss of the season, it was the 2nd largest margin of victory for Duke under Coach K at UNC. So at least tied for it. I was surprised, man. I really was. Like, Mark Williams did a great job. He basically negated Armando Bacot. Caleb Love, again, not consistently producing as much as UNC fans want them to. So I thought we'd get a better game. It was just non-competitive within the first 4 or 5 minutes. And that's this isn't unique to me. Everyone feels this way. But, man, it's so damn annoying when you have, like, a game or two, no matter the sport, where all this buildup, all this hype, and then you haven't even dipped into the appetizers yet, and then it's just over. It's such a buzzkill. All credit to Duke for getting the win the way that it did, but we know Duke is really, really good. It proved that again. The bigger story coming out of this is UNC taking this first home loss, and now is Carolina going to make the NCAA tournament in the first year under Hubert Davis? I'm telling you, I'm saying on February 6th. Come back and let me know. And if so, I will have my own.
They're not good.
Well, I'll have my own.
I was wrong.
I will have one of those for myself on this board. Okay, I will. But I'm going to say UNC is going to make the NCAA tournament because I think it's going to get 2 or 3 quad 1 wins, and I think it'll dodge it just enough where they scoot on into the field of 68.
They have 3 more quadrant 1 opportunities left in the regular season. Tuesday at Clemson. At Virginia Tech on February 19th, and at Duke on March 5th. Seems pretty obvious they're not winning at Duke. So we're down to Clemson and Virginia Tech. And for what it's worth, Ken Palm does project them to be underdogs in both of those games. So if these games go the way the computers suggest they should go, Carolina will enter the ACC tournament 0-10 in quadrant 1 opportunities. They are at real risk of getting to Selection Sunday with 0 quadrant 1 wins. Like you noted, since the net became the selection committee's grouping tool, no team's ever got there an at-large bid with 0 quad 1 wins. They right now, they also, just as long as we're piling on, they have 0 wins over top 40 Ken Palm teams. And they've really beaten nobody. They've gone from a team that was ranked 19th in the preseason AP poll to a team that can't even compete with top 25 teams. Forget them being a top 25 team. They can't compete with top 25 teams. Sort of the way I started the column was like, for me, I was home, but I've been there many times for Duke Carolina games, and it's not Cameron because it's just so much bigger and it's different, but it still can, create an incredible scene. And, so I'm watching from my office, and it looks like a big Carolina Duke game, and it sounds like a big Duke Carolina game. Then it started, and it looked like every other Carolina game against a good opponent this season. They were out of it immediately. Duke made 8 of its first 9 shots, goes up 19-5. Carolina never got it to single digits in the final 36 minutes of the game. The game was over 4 minutes in. Duke led by as many as 28. And what's interesting about this is that sometimes when a team is disappointing, you can sort of start to look at it and go, okay, well, here's why. Maybe we didn't see this in the preseason, but, with the benefit of hindsight, can sort of see why this went the wrong way. Like Michigan. It's like you go back and look at it now. It's like, man, Michigan lost a lot from last season's team. Now, we thought because they were bringing back Hunter Dickinson and they were enrolling 2 5-stars that, it would mostly be about the same. Clearly, that was incorrect. So when you look back on that and, from this perspective, you can sort of see how maybe you should have seen that they were going to, go the wrong direction. With North Carolina, I don't really think that's true. Like, why are teams that are supposed to be good usually bad? Well, they're just not talented. They're not that talented. And it's starting to show up. They're not that athletic. It's starting to show up. That's Virginia Tech, I think, by the way. A lot of people had Virginia Tech borderline top 25 team.
Yeah. I've
talked to multiple ACC coaches. And when I asked, I said, what happened with Virginia Tech? They were supposed to be good. Not athletic enough. They're a little small in certain spots. They're not very athletic, and it's a problem. So they're just not talented enough. They're trying to win in the ACC. I say this respectfully, but like they Mike brought some Wofford players over, and that has started to catch up a little bit. So that's Virginia Tech's explanation, I think. Supposed to be good, but not. Why? Just probably not talented enough to be what we thought they were going to be. And then the other obvious reason is too young, too reliant on first-year players, too reliant on freshmen. That's usually the recipe for teams that were supposed to be good, but they're disappointing. Carolina is neither of those things. They started against Duke, 2 seniors, a junior, and 2 sophomores. They're not young. They started 4 former top 75 prospects, including a 5-star. And the 5th player, Brady Manick, is a transfer who averaged double figures for an NCAA tournament team last season. They're not untalented, and they're not young. So if they're not untalented and they're not young, what is the explanation for why they're bad? You got an answer for that?
I mean, there can be a few different factors, but I think you're getting at the, how the head coach and the staff have been able to handle the situation so far this year.
Well, I'll just say, out of curiosity, I did a Twitter search for Hubert Davis's name last night.
That can be.
You don't want it. Hey, Hubert, if you're listening, buddy, don't do that. Because
that's not unique, obviously, to UNC.
Oh no, that's going on.
But that can really, I mean, especially, you went into the volcano, okay, in the midst of a home game against Duke. You went and did a search on Twitter for Hubert Davis's name, and Carolina fans are going to be particularly fired up about that. But I still think, listen, 2 things can be going on here. I think that he's done a relatively decent job in the first season. I think that's fair. They have actually won a lot of the games they should win. But for people that are listening to this are kind of curious, as we've talked about how they're 0-7 in quad 1 games and are wondering,
with a margin of defeat of 18.6. Don't leave that point out, because
it's not been close.
Yeah. I mean, they're getting blown out.
Purdue by 9, right, Parrish? Do I have that right off of memory? Purdue by 9 is the closest.
They did lose to Purdue by 9. I don't know if that's the closest, but there's only 2 single-digit ones. The other 5 are complete blowouts, and the average margin of defeat in quad 1 opportunities is again, it's 18.6. It's bad.
Best one is at Notre Dame by 5. You're correct. The best win, if you're curious, Furman. Home against Furman. That is or Virginia Tech. Either one. I would say that Furman actually, even though it rates lower in predictive metrics, Furman might actually be a better team than Virginia Tech right now, although they did just lose over the weekend late to UNC Greensboro. But that's what UNC's working with at this point. And you mentioned at Clemson, at Duke. What's the other Q1?
At Virginia Tech.
At Virginia Tech?
Yeah.
I would recommend 2 out of 3. You win those, because if it's 1 out of 3, even if the one is Duke, and I will be in the building for that one, and I selfishly would love to have a compelling game for Mike Krzyzewski's final one in Cameron Indoor. Let's say they lose at Clemson, lose at Virginia Tech, but they pull off a stunner at Duke. Still not going to be enough, in my opinion, at that point.
Pull off a stunner at Duke? What are you talking about? Dude,
that's exactly what it would be. They would be pulling off a stunner.
They just got rolled, humiliated by Duke in their own building. They ain't going 10 miles to Durham and pulling off a stunner.
Listen, anything's possible in a rivalry,
no,
right?
I
guess
not.
Zero chance. You're going 0 chance.
I'll put it pretty close to that.
Okay. All right. What I'm advising UNC to do is to minimally make the semis in Barclays Brooklyn ACC tournament. I should be on hand for that as well. Otherwise, yes, it's going to be real dicey, because I'm going to just circle back from what we talked about on the top. There's no way the selection committee is putting in a team. I don't care if UNC wins every other non-quad 1 game and loses all its quad 1 game. It's not putting them in the tournament. You're not putting an at-large team from a power conference into the tournament if they have not beaten a quad 1 opponent. Will not happen. Not on the table. 1, I would be highly suspicious of. Shouts to my morning jacket. 2 is actually maybe possible. Maybe, depending on how the resume shakes out. I think that they can get there. Again, I'm sitting here. I'm telling you, you asked me to say yes or no, Carolina in the field. I'm telling you, I think Carolina is going to get a couple of Q1 wins, and it will be in the field narrowly. That's my guess.
I think you've got it right. I don't want to say there's no way you could ever get an at-large with 0 quadrant 1 wins, because I do think it's possible. It would probably have to be a mid-major.
Correct.
That lacked opportunities. They were like 0-1 in quadrant 1 opportunities, and the resume was otherwise unblemished. That's a scenario where it could happen. It ain't going to happen for a team that played 10 quadrant 1 games and won 0. Like that is a fireable offense. No, I don't mean it like that. I'm not talking about.
You're talking about for the selection committee members.
Yes.
Specifically, I think I should have qualified that. Power conference team never getting into the tournament with 0 Q1 wins.
Right. Yeah. If you nor should it. If you get this many opportunities, you can't win any of them. The committee has made it clear over the years. You got to show us that you can beat other teams in this bracket. And if Carolina doesn't perform differently than it has performed to this point, it will be sitting on Selection Sunday, having not shown the committee it can win games against other teams in the bracket. And that is the scenario where it'll get left out of the bracket. To be clear, I am not suggesting this should be a 1 and done or a 2 and done, or North Carolina has made a mistake. I don't know. I do think Hubert has. I mean, we're talking about this team like they're ranked 140th at KenPom. Like, this is still a borderline NCAA tournament team. It's just in the highly visible games, they have been embarrassed consistently, and that's not a good sign. And I did just notice that a lot of North Carolina fans were chirping pretty loud on Twitter Saturday night in a way that I think the way I put it in the column is that year 1 isn't going well, and some North Carolina fans are already asking big questions. And I think that's an accurate portrayal of where we're at right now. It's not going well. You're preseason top 20, and now you lose badly just about every time you play a top 25 team. And some, not all, but some North Carolina fans are starting to ask, big questions. And so we could be talking on Wednesday, and they could be coming off a Tuesday night game in which they recorded their first quadrant 1 win, and we can say, okay, now they look like they might be on the right side of the bubble. But as of February 6th, they put themselves in a tough spot by losing all of these games, and most of them badly.